All right, good morning, good afternoon, depending on the location that you're all in. My name is Keith Taylor. I'm with LBSi, that's Long Business Systems, out of Cleveland, Ohio. We have been SAP partners since approximately 2004, so we're certainly one of the early adopters, as I think some of you that are on the phone call are. What we are going to look at today is what we call B1 material planning. We've called it material planning to definitely have a different name than what SAP refers to as MRP, although our product really is SAP's MRP. I like to say it's on steroids. And really what we did is we developed it approximately 5 years ago to fill a hole that was in SAP Business One MRP. So where we're at in Cleveland, Ohio in the US, many of our customers are manufacturers, and many of our customers have always used very robust MRP systems in SAP. And what we found when we were first starting to sell the product, that we really couldn't tell our customers that SAP had MRP, because especially back then it was really lacking in functionality. It certainly has gotten better in the latest releases of 8, but it's still, in our opinion, and I think in those that are attending the same thing, is that it still is lacking in functionality, and I don't personally see any plans in the near future for that to be changed. That being said, we're going to have a very impromptu overview of the functionality and some of the points. We will supply the recorded video, so if you have others in your organization that would like to see this, we'll give you a link to it. We do have also a series of even training videos that are published out on YouTube. And you can see some of that information when I send you a follow-up email on this conference. You can connect to my YouTube link and my Twitter accounts and those types of things if you're interested. I did mention that we have several LBSi customers using this, and I said that we've had it for approximately 5 years. And you might be asking yourselves, well, why am I just hearing about this now? Really, LBSi has a lot of products that we've been offering to our own clients, as I think some of you do, and we really didn't have the vehicle to sell and support this product worldwide. Well, with Boyum, where they come into play is that we now have that vehicle. Is that Boyum is offering this product in conjunction with LBSi as a plug-in to their B1 productivity and all their tools. So you can get this, download it, purchase it just as easily as you can on any of the Boyum products. So let's go ahead and start off and give you an idea of some of the functionality that is in the planning package. So off of the MRP, you'll see a new option called B1 Material Planning. It automatically loads. And you'll find some various functions like B1 Planning Generation, Item Planning Details, Projected Availability, Order Recommendations, etc. And we'll open up each one of those and discuss them. The MRP Wizard, that functionality that from SAP, you really will not use that, and it could be removed from the menu if you wanted to. So I'm going to go into our planning generation screen. The first thing that you'll notice when the screen opens up, and I will enlarge it a little bit, but some of it will look a little strange when it's enlarged. But in any event, first thing you'll see is there's a lot more features and functions and setup possibilities in our planning than there is in SAP's. For example, we do have the ability to plan MRP based on forecast codes, so we can include forecasts or forecasts if you want to. We only have one out there, but all the forecasts that are in your drop-down list would appear. We have the ability, and what we did is we set up priorities. For those on the call that are used to what people commonly refer to as hard pegging or maybe soft allocations, to do hard pegging or soft allocations, you need to set priority codes. And the priority codes are really on all of your supplies and demands. So for example, one supply would be a purchase order. Another supply would be a production order if it's a manufactured part, because those two functions, purchasing and production, will satisfy your demands. And your demands could be things like a forecast. They could be a sales order. They could even be a warehouse transfer. They could be safety stock. They could also be child items on production orders. So all of these items are your demands. So where the priority codes come into play is, for example, safety stock might be important to your company, but would you want to, if you had limited stock on something in inventory, would you want safety stock to be the highest priority, or would you want a sales order to be the highest priority? Most companies would say they'd want the sales order. So what these priority codes allow you to do is to set your own priorities for each of the supplies and demands. So purchase order we're saying is a number 1. So they go 1 to 10, with 1 being the highest and highest priority. And if you enter a 0, that means it's totally ignored. Okay, so in this example, priority 1 for purchase orders, sales orders, we said that's an equal priority. In my example, I don't want quotations to be even considered by MRP. However, some of our clients do want that. Production orders, we're saying number 1. Components of production orders, so child items, we're saying are number 1 also. And forecast, I'm saying it's important to me, but it's only a number 2. Safety stocks, I put it towards the end of this, and number 3. Then we go into what's commonly called days supply. So it's really how many days of supply do you want MRP to plan when it's doing its generation. So for example, if we're looking at a purchase ordered item and I need, let's say I have 2 sales orders out there. One is for 10 pieces that I need on October 1st, and one is for 15 pieces that I need on October 10th. If I was generating MRP and my day supply was 7, then MRP would actually plan 1 purchase order with 2 line items, one for the delivery on the 1st of October and one for delivery on the 10th. But if I had it where my day supply was 10 days, then the system would place 1 purchase order, 1 line, and have all of my requirements come in at the earliest date, so in this example, October 1st. And we provide for those day supply on, again, all items in the system, so safety stock, purchase order, production order, etc. Expedite days, again, standard MRP term. We will give you exception message and notices on when to expedite things, not like SAP, where, if we all remember, when a purchase order became late, they didn't tell you to expedite, they said place a new purchase order or build a new production order. So in our example, we're saying, go ahead and expedite it inside of 5 days. So if I have a purchase order that's due to come in, let's say October 4th, and my my expedite days are 5, then it'll tell me don't do anything to it because it's inside of my window. Where if it was coming in on the 6th outside of the 5-day window, it would say I better move that one up. So you have complete flexibility on how you want to set these things up. Forecast consume after, before, and after. This is exactly how we want to plan to consume your forecasts. So if your company or your clients are using forecasts, then typically what happens is you want sales orders to consume your forecast. So if I forecast 100 for a month and I've already received purchase orders from my customers for 50, then do I want the 50 for forecast to drop off? Yes, in most cases you would. So it really provides so that you don't, what I call, double dip. So you don't have both the forecast and the sales order telling you to double your requirements. Your allocate inventory through days, that's future functionality. Right now it's not doing, has no purpose at this moment. Dock to stock lead time days, that goes inside with your SAP lead time day. So if you want to add additional lead time for you to transfer it from the dock, do your receiving, transfer it to warehouses, etc., then you can stick in a number of days to do that. If you don't want to use it, just put in a 0. In my example, I'm allowing for 1 day, so every lead time in the system is really being increased by 1 day. Plan by warehouse. I'm not planning by warehouses. Many companies would. Usually you'd want to plan by warehouses if your clients have warehouses that are far apart from each other. So I know a lot of us on our implementations might within one building say, okay, I've got a normal warehouse and then I've got a QC warehouse or something of that nature. In that example, you would probably say plan by warehouse, no. In the example that maybe I have one warehouse that's in the UK and one warehouse in Australia, then in that example I would say yes. And what it will do is, let's say I have a demand for a warehouse in UK and I have my material in the Australia warehouse, it will tell me to go ahead and purchase it for the UK warehouse and ignore the Australia warehouse. So it really treats your warehouses as kind of distinct plants or distinct distribution, and it doesn't try to share warehouses back and forth. If you want to be able to transfer material, because another option would be to do warehouse transfers, then you could say plan by warehouse no, and the system would tell you, hey, you need to transfer material from one warehouse to another. Round up planned supply, so if the system says I need 1.506 or something, it's just going to round it up to a whole number. So in that example, it rounded up to 2. So it's just rounding things up to a whole number. Production order supply type. We actually had some of our clients that were, best way to explain this is, okay, estimating. SAP really doesn't have an estimate module per se. What we have done with many of our clients for people that manufacture something is we have them put in a production order, and it's a planned production order. And what they'll do is release that if and when they get the order. Well, some of our clients want to put these in well in advance, but they didn't really want to release the production orders. So we are giving them the option of planning MRP both on planned or released, or the combination of both. So again, it's all about additional functionality. Keeping down the list here, use SAP Calendar for purchase order. So we all know that there's what I call a holiday calendar in SAP. Well, if you've gone through some implementations and figured things out, you can certainly use that holiday calendar for much more. If you wanted to, you could put in weekends and all types of things in there. And if I say use the calendar, in this case for the purchase order, so PO use SAP Calendar, then it will look to that calendar when it's looking at its lead time, as opposed to the perpetual calendar, which SAP will use, which our MRP will use if you do not say to use it. So in this example, if we have, for example, weekends and holidays and putting in vacation shutdowns, etc., and planning is telling you to get something in and it would fall on one of those days that are non-working days, then the system will actually tell you to bring it in earlier. It'll tell you to bring it in on the last working day prior to the holiday or the day off. Same thing for purchase orders. Okay, so same thing for production orders. We also have the ability to plan the production order requirements. Some people want to do it if you have short production cycles, then you might want to get the material in here at the due date of the production order. Or if you have long lead time items, then you usually want your child parts to arrive at the beginning of production. So that's what that flag is. So you set it one way to get them in at the start of the production order, one way to get it on the due date. I'll skip down a little bit of these and just go over some of the exception messages. So we supply about 8 or 10 exception messages that are commonly referred to as standard in the industry. So for example, and I mentioned it earlier about moving in or expediting purchase orders or delaying production orders. If I've got a production order that my due date is set up for March 31st and I really don't need it till April 15th, then the system will come out and tell you to go ahead and move that production order out. So in addition to some of those standard exception message, we have some parameters for some optional exception messages. So create messages when the supply warehouse is not equal to the demand warehouse. So that's really that example I mentioned before about the UK and the Australia. If my purchasing person was supposed to bring material into the UK and brought it into Australia, and this was set to yes, then he would actually get an exception message that says, you messed up, you placed this purchase order for the wrong warehouse, you need to move it. A couple other things is go ahead and create a message when your quantity on hand is less than the economic order quantity. So we have a field that we've added to the item master called economic order quantity, as well as a few other fields in the system that'll add other functionality. So if you're familiar with the term economic order quantity, you understand how that works. But if you're not, I might, maybe I need 10 of something. However, my best price break or my best delivery or my best something is based on 50 pieces. If I have the system set to 50 as my economic order quantity, the system will give you the visibility of the economic order quantity, but not force you to place the purchase order or the production order for that quantity. And you'll see that in a few moments. It's just available on the screen, and you can override your quantity to purchase based on that economic order quantity. Same kind of thing, create messages if the quantity on hand is less than the order minimum. So the standard SAP fields for order minimum and order maximum are available, and they're used just like SAP intended them to be used, to give you exception messages in their standard product that says your inventory is going to fall below the minimum levels, etc. Create multiple messages for a supply. That one's a little bit of a scary one, but it takes a little bit to understand that one. And basically, I can explain it this way. And I've used MRP for years in my previous life. I could literally get an exception message to move up a purchase order today because I needed to move something in, but then a week later I could actually have another exception message that says move something out. So if I've got purchase orders staggered where maybe I've got them set for every 2 or 3 days, and some of our clients do that, then I could get messages that will literally tell me to go ahead and move this one up, and by the way, go ahead and delay this one at the same time. So multiple messages set to yes, that gives me that functionality. If I set it to no, then I'm really getting one message that applies to all of my supplies and demands at one time. So again, it kind of depends on what your clients or what you're doing if you have a client on the phone right now. Last field in this area, number of months average to display. We have another column that you'll see on our order recommendation screen in a moment that has that field on it. So the days of supply, days of to average. All that really is we are looking at, in my example, we're looking at our last 6 months of usage or consumption. So either one, shipments or usage, either to an issue to a production order or a shipment to a sales order. And we're just averaging those and displaying those right on the order recommendation screen so that the person generating the purchase orders or production orders has that information at their fingertips to make their decisions right on the spot. We show just some information in the next 3 fields. Who generated the MRP last? I did in this example. The start date and the end date, and actually the time is down here at the bottom since I expanded the screen. I do have a small database in this example, but in my example, this took less than a minute to generate. In keeping with that, we have many of our clients using this, and one of the things that you'll usually hear when you're talking MRP on other systems or even in SAP is you'll get huge warnings that says you got to have everybody logged off the system and you can only generate at 3 o'clock in the morning, and you're going to destroy your system if you don't, and all those types of things. Not true with our planning. We have customers that certainly they will generate it at night, because that's usually one way they do it, but they can generate it throughout the day. It will not destroy the data in the system. You don't have to do a backup of it first, those types of things. And actually, in reality, on average, it takes, even for our customers that have pretty large databases, on an average, it takes about 12 minutes to demonstrate. We have one client, for example, I can give you another example of they're way over in user count. They're in an area of about 250 users, and their generation takes about 30 minutes. And they have multiple warehouses, many sales orders, etc., that they're processing on a daily basis. So what our recommendation typically is generate night, evening, something of that nature, and maybe generate also at noon or something. So, but again, it depends on how your business fluctuates and how volatile your new orders are coming in and those types of things. Last thing on the menu is we have the capability of turning on or off MRP generation by warehouse. So in my example, I have 4 warehouses, and again, we have priority settings on those. So if I had a warehouse called QC hold or something of that nature, then I probably wouldn't want that to be an active warehouse. I would probably want MRP to ignore that warehouse. So I would set that to a no. In that case, I wouldn't have to change the priority, but I could do that also. So all of these parameters, once you change something, so if I just change that to 1, for example, my button out there now will be there for an update. So what a lot of clients will ask me, or business partners as well, do I have to go through the screen every day that I generate? No. You typically play with this for the first couple weeks of your implementation on planning, and then you have it set and you leave things alone, and all you would do is come in here, pull up your last generation, and click generate, and you're done. I'm not going to generate it right now. There's no reason to, because I really didn't change anything. So I'm just going to go ahead and cancel or close the screen because I don't want to save that update that I made. I do want to open up the item master very quickly to show you some additions that we have out there. I'm not really paying too much mind to what part number I have out, but over on the right hand side we do have some additional fields that we've added. Now in this case we have some other fields that have nothing to do with MRP, but for example the economic order quantity does, yield does, so we have a yield percentage at the item master. So depending on our yield percentage, if our yield is less than 100%, the system will actually tell you to purchase more. So it works that way for our planning. We have a new field out there called a planner. So that's very similar to the SAP field that is, really the salesperson / buyer field, except in this case it's available on our planning screen, so you'll get a good idea of that. If you only have one planning person that places all your production orders and all your purchase orders, no need to populate it. If you set up your items so that there's different planners on them, then you can go ahead and use that field for it. At the warehouse level, there's a few other fields out there. We use the safety stock. We do use minimum inventory. We use maximum inventory. And I'm just looking here. Minimum inventory level, maximum inventory level. And then look, if I also have my day's supply, that I can do that at the item warehouse level. And I will look at that at the lead time level, etc. So I have all those fields are available at the warehouse level and at the item master level. Don't be concerned about, if you're not concerned about warehouses, you just populate them at the item level, it's fine. So you don't have to worry about them. And for those people that are implementing our planning after you've already got your customer live or working on it while you're live, if you're using the B1 productivity tool, I'm sure you've seen the Master Data Manager. If you haven't, you should be looking at it. You can actually use that product to, let's say, mass update my lead times and things. So maybe I can have it mass update, lead time to be 14 days for all of my items that are in item group XYZ. So you can use those tools to help you set up planning and get things on its way. And by the way, I didn't say it earlier, but if you need to stop me at any point for any questions, please go ahead. So I'm going to go into the order recommendation screen, which is probably the heart and soul of the system, and it's where your planners will spend most of their time. So if I just open up that screen, I'm going to enlarge it a little bit to make things a little easier to read. So this is very similar to SAP's, but it offers much more capabilities. One of the things that we did, and this was at the request of myself and other personnel in our company that have been using MRP and planning for years, is what our goal was to try to do was to let the planners, so let your purchasing folks, your buyers, your production planning people, etc., be able to do their entire jobs without leaving this screen. And I think we've been successful in doing that. I will say that SAP has incorporated a few of the items that we have in our planning because SAP looked at our product 2 or 3 years ago. We invited them to look at it, and they've actually incorporated some of that functionality. But you'll see a lot more of that today in ours. So when you're looking at your B1 order recommendation screen, at the top, first of all, we have a few fields. And what these fields are for is nothing more than temporary getting items off of my screen. So for example, supply type. If I'm the purchasing person and I could care less about production orders, then I might want to set this to purchase and only look at the purchased items. So it's just a quick way of being able to change it to purchase. In this example, I'll click the refresh button, and I can see that I have on my screen now only supply type purchased items. So I'm going to change that back real quick and click refresh. You can do the same thing with item groups. So depending on how you have your item groups set up in the company, you might want to come in here and look at only certain item groups or one item group at a time. Through order by date. If your client has sales order bookings or production order requirements that are really far out, then you probably don't want to be looking at all that stuff. I don't want to be looking at something that I don't need until March 2013 right now. Maybe I only want to look out 30 or 60 days. So what that field allows you to do is on the fly look at a certain order through by date, we call it. So what I usually recommend people set that for is take your longest lead time item in the system. If your longest lead time item is 3 months, and I know that I can always get that longest lead time item in 3 months, then I'd recommend you set your through order by date no less than 3 months. Okay, so I just go under, I can put any date that I want. Warehouse, same type of thing. I'm now looking at all warehouses. I can have the ability to look at one warehouse. So maybe my example of UK and the Australia, I probably have a different purchasing person for the Australia warehouse as I do the UK warehouse, so it allows me to only look at those items. They don't fall off MRP, they just allow you to segregate things. And then here's that planner code field. So again, how we had planner by item, if you're using it and I don't have it set up right now, so I don't have any of those populated, then I could further select this down to look at only items that were set by planner code Keith. Over on the right hand side, you have a field called sort by. So purchasing person commonly might want to sort this by the vendor, right? So I want to go ahead and place all of my purchase orders with one vendor, so I want to see all those items at one time. Well, you have some other capabilities of how to sort this. You can sort it by the item, so the part number, sort it by the item description, or sort it by the order by date. So based on the lead time, of course, the system comes up with an order by date. So if I want to see them on my trouble on items and I want to quickly sort it by this, then I can change it to sort by ordered by date, click it by refresh, and my screen presentation will display that way. The last field on it is an additional details field. So what this screen is an evolution of our clients asking us for more functionality over the past 5 years. And many times they've asked for a lot more information on this screen, and it really gets wider and wider and wider. So if I click that field, what it really did when I clicked that field is it added about 10 more columns. And those 10 more columns approximately are things like those average days of usage that we spoke about. So that was a column that got added here. Right here, this average monthly. Now mine's 0 right now because I don't have any usage in my new database that I just created early. But it allows you, it displays that information. Okay. So now let's get to kind of the heart of things on how to use this screen. So at the top and the right hand side, we see how we can further refine this and sort things, so you get that idea. The bottom functionality, or on this screen, is pretty much like how 882 works now if you've all used 882 or your clients are, except with still some more additions. So I'll just go over some of the things, like for example, if I'm on a purchased item and I right click on it, and I know SAP took some of our requirements out of this, but for example, we've got quantity on hand. So although over on this column, there's a column out here that says quantity on hand, which is what, 10 pieces now. It's about, it's way over here where it shows the quantity on hand in all warehouses. If I click on this one, it shows me my quantity on hand at each warehouse and my ordered quantities on my safety stock. So it's really just bringing up a little snapshot of your inventory data tab off of the item master that says, you know, I got 10 coming in for the 01 warehouse, 50 for the 02, etc. And I got safety, I don't have safety stock at either one of those, etc. So it's just a quick way of seeing that information. So again, it's about, can I see everything without leaving the screen? Business partner special prices allows you to get to those special prices very quickly, right? So if I right click, I can get to my special prices screen that we've pre-populated in SAP to automatically place the purchase orders based on those special prices. Which brings up a field that I didn't show you on our planning generation screen, is we do have an option on our planning generation screen on how these prices work. So those that are very familiar with MRP and SAP will note that you don't really have the capability of switching on or off how the quantity breaks work in SAP. So for example, if you have a quantity break out on a part number and say if you buy 100 pieces they're 10 cents, and if you buy 200 pieces they are 8 cents. On SAP, when you're creating those line item by line, row by row on a purchase order, it uses those quantities. It does not combine them. Well, we have an option on our planning generation screen that will allow you to combine those if your vendors allow you to do so. So if I have it set to, it'll say combine PO quantities for discount. If I have that set to yes, then it would combine all the quantities on one purchase order for like items and go to the price break that's assigned then. So real nice functionality there. But in all these options, of course, you can right click, go on there and change it, do all that type of thing. None of that functionality goes away. Open purchase orders, so that quantity on hand field, of course, gives me a snapshot of my ordered and my in stock. But if I'm over here and right click and I have open purchase orders, I can just right click and see open purchase orders, and I do in this case, right? I got PO number 83. I got 200 of them with a due date of 6/12, a little bit late. And I've got same purchase order number, different line, 1200 for actually the same date in this case. I can, of course, drill down. We have drill down functionality all throughout ours, so I can get to all of the information in the purchase order. You know, and you're not looking like I know some of the add-ons that are out there when you get into some module, whatever, be it production or planning or something, the screens might look totally different than SAP. I think you can see for ours, if your customer or someone in your organization didn't know it was an add-on, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference because it functions the same way. And we think that's important. If I'm on a production order item, right click, click production order, same thing as the open purchase order one did. Checkbox on the left works the same way as SAP did. When I'm through with it and I'm ready to purchase it or ready to produce a production order, I click the checkbox and I can do all of that, right? Anything in white I can change. So if I've got this supply, this purchase order for 01 and I want to bring it into a different warehouse for whatever reason, I can do that. And if I change it here when it's generated, it'll change it on the purchase order or production order depending. My due dates are the dates that you should have all the material into your warehouse or into your shops. So those work the same way as they do in SAP. They're the standard fields. The order by date is nothing more than the math, taking into consideration the lead time based on the calendar that you have set, whether it be the holiday annual or the perpetual, and based on whether you're using dock to stock lead time days, etc. My quantity, so it's always going to show you the quantities required for this particular instance. So in this example, it's looking like I need 75 of them. My economic order quantity, remember I mentioned earlier that that field's visible. So if this happened to say my economic order quantity was 100, it would not automatically change my quantity required to 100. It would just give me the visibility of it. And if I decided, yeah, I want to go ahead and do it, I just come in here and change it to 100 and move on. Order minimum, visibility, order multiple visibility, on hand visible, on order quantity, all that information only. Okay, my vendor's name, the purchase orders, if there are any generated since the last generation screen, and I purposely created a few and we'll create a couple more here. So these, I have not generated MRP since I've generated these purchase orders or production orders if there are some out here, and I think there is one down here. Okay, so all of that's the same. So creating a purchase order, production order works absolutely identical to how SAP does. So I won't go into a lengthy situation of that. But if I go out here and go ahead and generate one, I'm getting a message because it has pending updates. Do you want to continue? That's because I changed that quantity. So really what it wants me to do is say no and update that screen first, and then click the create button. Because SAP, as you know, really doesn't know that that happened until you clicked update. So if I click my generation screen, I think I did, I'm not even sure. Yeah, I did, that was complete. The reason is that one's already purchased, so it won't let me do it again. So I'm going down my list to show you all the things that we don't allow you to do, which is good. We don't let you override it and do it a couple times. This one has not been generated. So if I click my create button, I'll get a message box, comes up, tells you how many purchase orders you've created, or how many production orders, or both if you've chose to do them at the same time, and there's no reason why you cannot do that. I don't recall how 882 works in the recent database. I need to double check that. But in our system, if I have 15 different parts for the same vendor and different even release dates, different order due by dates, it'll put them all on one purchase order. So once we add the item, immediately I will have over on the right hand side, I will have the visibility of the purchase order number and be able to drill into it. I don't remember which one, I think it was this one. So I can drill into my purchase order, there it is. You know, all that standard functionality. It would have considered the price breaks depending on the quantities, part numbers, etc. Any questions on that? Okay, not going to have time to cover all of this because there's really a lot of things to the breadth of this product. But I do want to go in and show you a few more of the things that I think are very, very useful. And I can either do these things off of the menu or do it off of the order recommendation screen. So for example, if I'm on an item, and I'll just pick this one, and I want to look at what's called pegging. Again, this could be your soft allocations. So if I click on the item pegging, and I'll make this screen a little larger. I got a widescreen monitor here, so I want to make sure everybody can see it well. Okay, so in this example, what am I seeing? I'm seeing more information about that part that the system is telling me to do something with. So this is for your planner or your buyer person that, quite honestly, doesn't believe the information that MRP or planning is telling he or she. This is the detail of why you need those requirements. So at the top is just general information on the item. It's all grayed out. Matter of fact, everything on the screen is grayed out except for the functionality of the drill down. So what this is really doing is giving you the complete detail of that item and its requirements. So for example, here's my demand due date of a very old date, and I apologize, but March 17, 2009, and my demand type, which in this case, it's a production order. So the PRD BOM, it's a production bill of material, requires this part. Okay, it's on this document number that I can drill into if I want. That line, I have my actual quantity, my demand quantity. They could be different if you've already produced some of the parts. How many are pegged? So how many are pegged for this particular demand, and what my supply type is. So in this case, these 5 are coming from inventory. They're coming from supply type quantity on hand. Down here, if I look, this one, the supply type for this is a PPO, which is a planned purchase order. And here is my supply document. It's really telling you to add a purchase order line. So it's giving you those details right here of what you would have to do. Of course, they were back on the other screen too. So you only get into the screen if you're really questioning something, or you're on the phone with your supplier or a production person that's telling you you have a delivery problem. It's really allowing you to determine how bad is that problem. It's just giving you the tools to be able to react on it. So that's how the planning details screen works. Projected availability. So I go on a projected availability screen. It's somewhat similar to the other screen, but really what it's doing is it's giving me my my complete details and showing me what's my inventory going to be based on my supplies and based on my demands. So like right now, I'm already in trouble, right? I have -5 here. My projected on hand is -5 because of the demand that is out there. Way down here, actually back here I guess it is, I'm going to have a projected on hand of 996 because of that purchase order that I'm placing. And that purchase order I'm placing, a lot of that is going to be satisfying safety stock too. So it's again giving you all of your information at the fingertips. What if order recommendation, probably be one of the last things I cover here, at least in the planning portion. What this allows you to do, and this is one of the things that our clients really, really like, is I can come out here and put a part number in. And I think that's a valid part number, if I'm not mistaken. I guess it wasn't. Hold on. 4. Am I having a problem counting zeros today? S. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, got it that time. I'm going to use my bill of material in this case, but it didn't change, did it? There we go. And put in a quantity. So I need 100 of these items for this server. I need 100 of that S10,000. If I click my refresh screen, what it does is it explodes my bill of material all the way out. So in my example, I don't have many levels. We do go up to, I think it's 22 levels. I apologize, it's 20 or 22 levels in a bill of material. And our standard SAP doesn't do that. So if you're not familiar with it in SAP, you have to generate MRP. You get your requirements for the first level below that. So for example, if it's a production order, you have to first create that production order before you'll see your requirements for the next level, create another one, next level, etc., etc. Not with ours. Ours, you generate it, you get all your requirements at one time. So if like in this example, I didn't even generate MRP. I just said, hey, you know what? I'd like to build 100 of these servers. What's going to happen here? So what this does is explode your bill of material immediately based on your standard bill of material in this example. Because nothing is created, there's no production order created. Put a quantity in, put a due date too, right, typically. So I put a due date out there, let's say 12/31. And I'm going to refresh it to make sure something might have changed because of that. So I need these on 12/31/12. Then every one of my clients has always asked Keith, they say, I need a shortage report. So what this does, it allows you to do that. That's one of the purposes. So if I click shortages only and click refresh, notice that my list reduced drastically, and now I've really only got 4 issues out there. I would need to place, looks like 2 production orders and 2 purchase orders to satisfy those requirements. So it's trying to give you information for maybe your quoters, your estimators, or your customer service people too, as to what they can tell customers. It's giving you that information. And oh, by the way, if somebody places you an order, you can generate it right from here. So if you want to go ahead and place this purchase order and you've got the right authorizations, you can come right into the screen, just like the order recommendation screen. Click on the buttons, place the order, change the quantities, etc., and satisfy those requirements. So it's a real nice feature of the system. The last two things I want to go over are the schedule boards. So a little bit we feel of some of the missing information in SAP is the ability to pull up a screen and look at, for example, all of your production orders for a range of dates, or open production orders, or released, or whatever. So we all know that standard SAP says go ahead and create a production order, but you know what, I'm not going to release it for you. I'm going to make you save that, pull it back up again, and release it. Well, our clients were forgetting to do that. Yeah, we can give them an alert that says these are all the production orders that aren't released, and go ahead and do that. But what this screen allows you to do is do your planning and your scheduling, quite honestly, right from the screen. So many of our clients will run their shops right from here, because most clients really do not do scheduling by work centers and capacities and all those types of things. Generally, they know they can make so many pieces in a day, and they do their planning by that. So that's what this screen allows you to do, is give you all of the information on one screen. You've got a lot of that sorting and selecting at the top. So if I wanted to look at only production orders that were released in a date range, I could do that. Only certain item groups, etc. Maybe only look at the planned ones because I want to know which ones I have to release. That was the example I gave you. So there happens to be, whatever, 6 or 7 of those that I can literally come in here, drill on everything, drill down, and release them if I want to. So we're showing you some of that information through there. Sales order side, we did exactly the same thing. So we have a sales order schedule board. And a lot of people say, what's that got to do with planning? Well, it really does, because it gives you that information on your open sales orders. So I can come out here and look at open sales orders for a certain item number, a certain item group, a certain warehouse, again, delivery dates, etc., and have that information at the fingertips. I think that's about all I wanted to show you today. I would like to open it up for questions. We've got whatever, 5 to 10 minutes, I guess, of time available, and I always want to leave some time at the end for any questions that people might have. So I'll open it up. Are there any questions from anybody? Any comments? Yes, hi. Mm-hmm. Yes, I mean, and I think we talked about this over the phone or an email too the other day. But if I'm in planning, and let's see if there's an item out there that really meets that requirement. Okay, losing my train of thought here. But for example, here is, let's actually take an item that we've already got a purchase order placed. So right here, right there, that item, part number C3, that Intel, whatever it is due to come in on June 18th, and it's pegged. So if I look at the item pegging of this, so that is 114. So it'll show you that PO number 114 is pegged to this. And if I do the receiving transaction, what you'll see first of all, and then generate, is this will immediately fall off, which I can do that now. So let's go ahead and drill into that purchase order. Okay, so here's my purchase order. If I copy it to a goods receipt, and I just receive it, and hopefully my GL accounts and all that are set up, I think they are. Okay, I received it today. So the first thing I'm going to show you is that if I close this screen and open it, this will look absolutely identical, and the pegging will look identical too. It won't change until I regenerate. So if I go ahead and close this screen and I go back and regenerate, and this will just take a minute. So again, this is usually what you'll do is probably do this, once or twice a day. So my planning generation is complete. Now if I go back into my order recommendation screen, I will first of all see that that fell off. That's not going to be there anymore, and it's not. Notice that nothing with a purchase order or a production order is there. Okay, so if I went back and looked at that item, and that I wasn't smart enough to write down the item number, but I will go get it here in just a second. I think it was, but let me just double check that. Yep. Yep, you're right. Okay, so if I go back now and look at that item, it will have fallen off, and my pegging, it'll fallen off my pegging too. 1 second. So I can go, I can literally go right into it if I want. So I can drill right into it. So probably the best way is here is typically what I would do. There's my part number, okay, because it remembers the item that I was last on, which is actually kind of nice. And that requirement is now fallen off. I still got some other ones coming in that I need to expedite. So here is another one where for this production bill of material requirement, notice this one, that my supply document is 83, right? It's telling you to expedite it. But let's go ahead and do this again. So if I go ahead and receive that line, which is line 3, so it's right there. So if I go ahead and receive that line, and of course I picked one that has many items on it. So in the interest of time, I'm just going to go ahead and receive all the items. Okay. So add it. So I receive all those. So that was purchase order number 83. So if I generate MRP real quick, you'll see that 83 would have fallen off there. So let me go do that for you. Okay, planning generation is complete. If I go back and look at that item, notice that that fell off immediately. So 83 is no longer there. And some other ones fell off too because there were some other line items for that same item on that purchase order. So immediately that fell off. And I think when I talked to you about this the other day, it's a soft allocation, right? So it's in. Nothing, so now that's repegged to my quantity on hand, right? So right in this area here, it's repegged to there, and I'm getting another message. My supply and demand warehouse is different, but that's a whole different issue that we spoke about earlier in the presentation. But it did fall off. I got a soft allocation. It is now, my pegging is now coming from quantity on hand as opposed to a purchase order because it's already been received. So the system is saying that quantity that I need for that production order is already on inventory. But I've got some more requirements down here where, of course, this one says I need to place a purchase order, right? So I need to create a line for 379 pieces and get them in here on June 7th. And oh, by the way, I need to get another one in here on October 8th and another one here on October 8th for different production order requirements. Does that show you what you're looking for? Right, yeah, I saw that today in an email, yeah. Right, and if anybody needs any help on, perhaps performing your first planning demonstration or whatever, I have no problem in doing that. The only thing I'd urge you to do is, follow some of our videos, and I know a lot of the partners, and we're the same way, we want to do our own demos, right, because you want your customer to make sure that, to prove that you understand everything. And you should be able to do it by looking at the videos. It really isn't that hard to do. If you take some snapshots, and we provide those for you in the documentation on how we recommend those screens be sent out for your planning generation, there really isn't much else. I mean, of course, the standard fields apply. The the item master field, it's MRP or none for planning and SAP, that applies, etc. But you can actually, if that's set to MRP, and you can even ignore all the other fields like safety stock, min, order, and your planner codes, you can ignore all that stuff and still do a demonstration. And that's why I purposely left all that blank, because I don't want to scare people and say, hey, you know, we got 10 fields on 50,000 part numbers that you have to populate, because that is not the case. Any other questions? That was a good question. Thanks for asking that. Okay. Uh-huh. No, we really don't have it for that. This is really designed for I don't have a sales order line. That's really the purpose of it. So now what you're asking for coincides with that. Do we have some functionality on the whatever, the sales order or the item master that says, you know, right click, show me my show me my issues? Technically, no, we don't have a direct link to it, but if you think about it, the screen does it, right? So if I take a sales order and I want 50 of them and I'm trying to figure out what it is, if I come over to this screen and just duplicate it, put that part number in the 50 and the date, it will give me that information. But you do have to come to the screen to do that, and I recognize that. We've thought about that, and we have it on a list of things to certainly consider in additional releases, but we haven't really planned to do that as of yet. You know, of course, using Boyum, you could probably put a button on the screen and get to the screen fairly quickly, that type of thing. We haven't done that yet, but that might. Exactly, and I believe you should be able to do that. Although I don't want to sit here and state you can. I'm not even positive if I can link a button to this screen. And I'd look to Mads or maybe somebody from his team to tell me that one. I think I can, as long as it's available within Boyum. Then I should be able to do it. But even if that falls through, you can still get at it fairly quickly. Another good point, another good request, and like I said, it's already on our list of things to consider. Any other questions or comments? Okay, if there's not, I will do a follow-up email to everybody. We'll have a link to the presentation. I'm not sure if that's going to be on Boyum's site or what yet, since it was over an hour presentation. I'll see if it can be posted on YouTube. If it can, I'll go ahead and do that there. If there's no more questions or comments, I'll go ahead and end the presentation. I thank everybody for participating. I hope that you've seen something that will help you in perhaps closing some deals. We're all working on that last quarter and the last 2 or 3 months of the year to try to get deals closed this year, because that makes everybody happy, helps our bottom lines and everything. And I know that this can help you fulfill that hole and that gap in some planning functionality that SAP doesn't have. So, you know, if you have any questions, shoot me an email. I will send it to you and give you all my contact information. And I'd love to help you close your first deal or two. All right, thanks a lot. Have a great morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you're at.